So we have the pleasure to have Hemesh with us tonight. So Hemesh is the VP of Energy and Climate Lead at CRES of UOB. CRES is Corporate Real Estate Services of UOB. And Hemesh is also a LinkedIn top voice. So when he says something, people listen. And Hemesh is also one person that I really admire the background, because he has done a lot of different things, a lot of very interesting things. And so we are lucky to hear a bit more of this. So to start with, Hemesh, tell us a bit more, briefly, what's your background and how did you start working on sustainability?
Sure. Thanks. Thanks, Brice, for having me here. Thanks for edX School also. So I think just before we start, I'd like to say, I think it's a good day to have this, the first part of your Hummingbird talk, because tomorrow is actually Earth Day. So it's a very nice segue into going into Earth Day itself. So now going back to the question, I know I talk a lot, but I'll try to keep it short. Why I came to this sustainability sort of thing itself, when I was in school, there was internships. I decided, no, I didn't want to do an internship. I wanted to do a special project. And that special project was actually looking into solar. At that point of time, solar it's not as sexy as it is right now. I have a developer over here, who does a lot of solar. Maybe 15 years ago, solar was nothing to what it was today. So I said, look, I can build a car and it's going to be solar powered. Why not give it a shot? I took 1 year to build a car, of course, with a team. And it was I raced at the Sepang Grand Prix, which is in Malaysia. That was actually quite an interesting experience, but not about that. But we did save energy. We were not running on petrol. We were just running on solar. And
only solar?
Yes, only on solar. So the admission criteria or the winning criteria was to actually consume as little energy as possible. Of course, we had a battery, in case there was some cloud cover.
Yeah.
But we did produce more energy than using the battery energy. So that was something that actually got me into understanding, wow, there is such a thing as renewable energy, which is free-ish, but free as compared to, dirty, cold energy and gas energy. But that being said, I moved into the oil and gas industry, which is a very, very dirty industry, but I was part of a very big conglomerate at that point of time. I learned quite a lot of technical things from that company. And I must say, I'm thankful to join, that kind of company where you are given the resources under the graduate program to actually explore how turbines work. So it's very, very technical work that I did. And that's where I delved into work as a consultant. I joined Mott MacDonald as my very first company, and I was a technical consultant in the power industry itself.
Mott MacDonald is not a fast food chain.
No. That's just the McDonald's part of it, but Mott MacDonald is an architecture company.
Precise, yeah.
Yes, correct. So that's where I delved into, doing technical due diligences for banks. So when banks actually want to invest into a power plant, does the investment side of things when he was doing sustainability investing, sustainable financing. I was the technical person actually evaluating it and saying, look, there are a lot of issues, from a technical viewpoint, or, these are things that we need to consider. But that being said, 15 years ago, solar was not at the forefront of things. I did a lot of coal. I did a lot of gas. And then slowly started the transition into renewables, into what we see today itself.
What made you start it first in sustainability? Was it because you realized that it was something pretty new and it was vast and infinite?
So actually, I got kind of lucky because I was in the power industry doing coal and gas power plants. Yeah. And then there was more renewable energy, very advanced companies trying to get into that field. So, it's an easier technology. So, we went and did this sort of technical due diligences. But I think I must say that the exposure that I got, traveling to different sites, made me really understand the social and the environmental damages that, coal and gas power plants actually create. But at the same time, I'm not saying that, coal and gas is entirely bad. I know a lot of people might be thinking, it is. But to a certain extent, if we come from places like Indonesia, for example, coal is really, really cheap. So you got to understand that, the energy transition is something that happens slowly. So there are a lot of considerations before we say renewable energy is the best and coal and gas is not very good. So it's always a transition, always trying to get better and better before we go to zero. Yeah.
I would like to go back to something you said earlier. You said that you were a consultant in oil and gas and that you did dirty things. You also did other very nice things like helping a village to use solar instead of oil, basically.
Yes.
And so basically the village didn't want to do it because they have been always using it, or they have been using it for.
Yeah. So the solar. So basically, my aha moment came when I went to a village in Indonesia. So it's I connected about 50 different villages. They were all using electricity, using diesel. So that's where we proposed, look, let's use solar. There was a lot of apprehension in terms of doing that. They said, no, the power will be lesser. There was a lot of issues. But we pushed and we pushed and we pushed. The one thing that came out from it was when we made the transition for them, we switched on the solar. They said, wow, it's so quiet. That's the first thing that the villagers said. And that was something that I will keep until my whole future, is because that made the hugest impact. They always had that impression that, solar doesn't work well. It is something that will be very expensive. They have a lot of trust in things that they're already using. So, but that made a whole load of change, because that was the village head that said, wow, it's so quiet, and everybody just, yes. So I think that was something that made me think that, look, there is, I was lucky to be exposed to that moment, but it's something that made me think, there is a lot of potential with solar and renewable energy. There's something that we need to continue exploring and making it better for the rest of the world.
Yeah. So first you have seen a bit like what explained Loic, that sustainability has to be a business. And so once it was a strong business case and people were okay to move on, then they realized there's very positive aspect to it that they didn't think about.
Yeah.
And this is pretty fantastic about sustainability. Yeah. Also because probably this case helped other villages.
Yes, and it made the transition for other people, other villages, an easier transition, because we said, look, we have done it with ABC. Let's try it again. Let's do this. And there was lesser pushback.
Yeah. And that's a snowball effect in a positive way.
Yeah.
So now, what are you in charge of in UOB now that you are you had your aha moment and you move towards what you mentioned, in a way, the right side of the force. Yeah. You also work for a bank, and so a bank is not really seen as the ones who might push the most for sustainability. In your case, I believe this is quite different. So can you explain more what's your role exactly, and how it you help the bank and the customers to reduce their carbon footprint?
Sure. So I'm the energy and climate lead, like Brice mentioned. I look at scope 1, scope 2, scope 3 emissions and climate risk for 500 plus assets across 19 different countries. So it's a big mandate, but there are a lot of things that we can look at. The strategy, I'm part of the corporate real estate team, and so we take care of UOB's own footprint. There are 3 governing pillars that we look at, energy efficiency or energy conservation measures. We look at renewable energy, and then, we look into carbon credits, as a form. I'm happy to share that, we have attained carbon neutrality, since 2021. But of course, that is just a small step in our way to achieve net zero in 2050, which is a goal we share. So, like Brice rightly pointed out, banks, they have different mandates, but this is something that we are really pushing internally.
Yeah.
We have done quite a number of things in this space.
How many pages is the sustainability report?
60? 70 plus 70 plus pages. Not many people read sustainability reports these days, but you can get a lot of information from these sort of. So I know I'm just jumping a little bit, but you would definitely ask, what are some things that students can learn. Take a look at sustainability reports. People take a lot of time. I think Lloyd, as a sustainability head, his team, looks at sustainability reports, prepares them, takes months to do that, and there is a lot of information in those pages, so you can learn a lot of things from these.
Yeah. And so, with your role, being what you mentioned, what's the agenda of the company around it? What does the company is pushing for, and what type of solution, or what type of innovations the company needs to continue its sustainability journey?
So sustainability is constantly evolving. There are proven technologies, there are proven things that are in the market, but there are also new things. I met Brice through an innovative product of his, ceramic nets, for the HVAC system itself. Those are innovative solutions that are looking to challenge the status quo of current solutions itself. So that being said, UOB is always on the lookout, or my team's always on the lookout for solutions that help us reduce emissions. But of course, that's the whole point of sustainability. Keeping if you once you reduce your emissions, that saves costs for the company itself. So of course, we are not so aggressive in looking at carbon capture, for example, in that sort of direction, but more proven technologies. But we are looking at pilot projects as well. So, this whole gamut of things but in short, just decarbonizing solutions that will help us achieve our goals at the end of the day.
Yeah. So is it only about solar now?
It's not only solar. I look at everything, across. Even right now, we are looking at climate risks. We are, working in terms of establishing, the risks that, our assets are facing in terms of flooding and heat waves. And we are looking at solutions in order to mitigate these sort of risks based on our highest risk assets. So, it's a whole gamut, not only on emissions. And emissions it's huge. We have electricity, we have paper, we have a waste, so there are a lot of different solutions which we are, we have to take that time to really establish and find out whether they work for UOB or not.
With what you mentioned, what's your why? Why are you doing what you are doing?
I enjoy it actually, based on the aha moment, I am creating more aha moments for myself. And, hopefully, I think Lloyd said something very nice earlier, we're just one little drop in the ocean, but I feel that one drop, we can create an impact. If we all have that mentality, then we can create an impact. But we say, look, I'm only one person, I can't do anything. And we all have that same mentality, nothing will happen. So, we always look at, I think there was questions about what can the government do? What can businesses do? But these are things that you can do as well, to push the needle, albeit, very, very, very little steps, but there's something that you can do as well.
Where do you think the future of banking will be in the next years? And do you think that sustainability will be stronger and stronger? If yes, in which way?
I think, sustainability is always going to be there. I think, for me, I started when sustainability was not a buzzword.
Yeah.
It was not cool, not sexy at all. Now it was in vogue, but I think since January, no, it started going down. It goes through the ups and downs. But I think sustainability is always there. I think it's more
It's not a trend.
yeah. To me, it's not a trend. And if you are interested to get into sustainability, you need to work in the trenches. Get your hands dirty. The impact will be there. You will feel it, and that's when you feel great about it. But it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of no, and changing that no into a yes from stakeholders. And then, you get that satisfaction at the end of the day.
How do you change a no to a yes?
Storytelling, I would say. In short, it's painting the right picture. Every stakeholder has a different agenda that they want to achieve. It's about understanding your stakeholders' expectations and then seeing how you can align your solution to their agenda. Otherwise, it's not gonna work out.
Any often goes back to business, right?
Yeah, any often goes back to business.
Yeah. Do you have any piece of advice for people who want to start a sustainability journey today?
Sure. Like I said, maybe it's not for the weak-hearted, I guess, not for the faint-hearted or people who are just garnering fame and attention. Like Lloyd said, he's the head of sustainability. Oh, wow, that's cool. That's sexy. But for how long? But then again, if you think about it, it's you can't feel sustainability in a day, in 2 days, in a few months, not much. In a year, not much. But it takes time, it takes efforts, and after some time, you can see the impacts of that. So what I'm trying to say is that I think there are a few things that advice I would give to students. Don't go at it for the fame, for the attention. Go for it if you're really passionate about it. And if you are already starting to work, don't think that, look, let me find a sustainable job. That you can incorporate sustainability into your everyday jobs itself. There's always a sustainability angle that you can always pitch in. For example, from a procurement perspective, there's sustainable procurement. There's a HR perspective, there is DEI, although I know Lloyd is not a fan of it, but there is always that perspective. So in different functions of a company, sustainability can always be incorporated. You don't have to be part of the sustainability team to drive sustainability. So of course you can pivot, along the way. But start at where you are, make that small changes, make that impacts, go for courses, upgrade yourself, upskill yourself, and then, slowly you can come into this industry bit by bit. Yeah.
So get trained on what we mentioned a bit earlier. Get trained, so then you start saying the things that we couldn't see before, and then your focus and attention become much greater. And then once you see it, you cannot unsee it anymore. Is there any other piece of advice that you have for the younger generation?
I mean, the previous generation, I would say, might have screwed it up a little bit,
We can say it, yes. We say it as well.
We are trying, but y'all are the future generations, keep at it, keep going at it stronger, build up the momentum, and definitely the impact will be felt. I don't think we can reverse the damage. Damage is already done. I was reading reports that we have already hit the 1.5 degree threshold. So everyone's going for well below 2 right now. Let's try and not go well above 2, I guess.
Yeah. I really like it. I would like to close with a quote from a great writer called Peter Drucker. He said, "The best way to predict the future is to create it." And so we hope that with these 2 amazing speakers that we had tonight, you have more knowledge to better create the world that we need for tomorrow.